Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How are you doing today? It's a sunny day in Chicago here. How is it in New York?
Cold, but sunny.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's definitely cold. I went for an hour-long walk this morning and I wanted a second layer under my sweatpants for sure.
Some
Hi,
people
everyone.
didn't get the email, so I'm going to try to do that right now.
Yeah, I apologize if people didn't get the reminder emails. We noticed that within our system, I'm not sure, Jill, if you know the reason why, but 9 people were not receiving the email. So I'm happy everyone is here.
Yeah, I responded that I didn't know how to log on, but I had 2, I didn't realize I had provided my other email address. So I saw the Zoom information from you an hour ago, and that's all good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Wonderful.
I'm gonna check out for a moment and see if I can figure it.
Before you do that,
Mhm.
let me see if I can, could you make me screen share? Allow me to screen share.
Yes. Oops. I always go to and start to share the screen myself when I do that. Who can start sharing them to me? Oh, okay. Okay, you're good.
Okay, so it is about 4, so let's just get started. I'm going to be in screen mode. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. So yeah, first and foremost, I want this to be an interactive webinar. Most of you are probably used to Zoom by now, but if you want to keep yourself off mute, that's okay, and unmute yourself when you want to talk. At the end of every PowerPoint, I encourage you, at the end of every slide, I encourage you to say a comment or ask a question. This is a casual kind of workshop to figure out what things would be good for everyone. So again, I'm Danielle, and I'm going to be presenting how to always be prepared even when you don't have a plan. I realize that that title can be applied to many different things, but in our situation, it is applied to nutrition and how to eat nutritiously when you don't have a plan. So with this whole PowerPoint, I want you to think of this as like a menu. I'm going to be throwing out a lot of different ideas, a lot of different concepts. You might be doing half of them already, but even just picking up one new one is a win. You know, just like a regular food restaurant, you choose one, and then the next time you go back to the restaurant, you choose a different item, most likely. Think of it like that. And so what do you want to have prepared? This whole workshop is about foods that are delicious, nutritious, and judicious. That's kind of Jill's mantra. And it's foods that are full of protein, fat, and fiber. And so we really want to encourage you to be satiated after you have your food, after you have your snack, after you have your lunch, your dinner, foods that will give you those essential minerals and that will keep you continuing on your health journey. So when do you need to be prepared? Those last minute dinners, we can all understand those moments. Snacks on the run, that could be just, you know, on the road or just when you need to run outside of your house. Lunch at work, work from home, or just lunch, work from home. The crap, I have no food moments. We want to get rid of that moment. We don't want that to be a part of your life anymore beyond this, hopefully. And then lastly, when you don't have a plan. So even me, I study nutrition, I do nutrition, but I cannot tell you truthfully that I have every single meal planned 3 days a week, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. You know, life happens, things happen. And what happens when you don't have a plan? You still need to be prepared to eat nutritiously. Before we get into the meat of it all, just some being prepared rules. First is have versatile, delicious food options on deck, and I'm going to talk about what those are. Be comfortable with experimenting. It's just food is fun. It's usually forgiving. Understand that your ideal last minute prepared meal can be different from someone else's. That's especially true if you're cooking for a family or you're cooking for someone else. Your last minute meal might not meet the standards of someone else, but you could say, hey, you can make the next meal. Lastly, it's the last two rules are, when in doubt, Google it out. Even in those like last minute moments where you don't know what to make, I always just love Googling. You know, the internet has so many different things out there, and I love Googling just like recipes with broccoli in it, and then you'll get 100 different options. I usually can find one that I want to do within first 10 of them. And then your freezer is your best friend. Of course, your fridge too, but when it comes to being prepared for those last minute moments, I really want to emphasize the freezer. So with the chat, okay, yeah, so I'm not going to be able to see the chat during my presentation. So if you have a question, I prefer if you just say it out loud, but let's continue on. So vegetables to have on deck. Garlic and onions. Every single one of my meals that I make ever have garlic and onion in it. They're alliums, so they provide flavor. They're super easy. You just put them in a pan and you can see that you already get that nice garlic onion smell after 2 minutes of cooking. Apples and oranges, those last forever. Well, the reason why I'm listing out these vegetables to have on deck is that they have a long lifespan. These specific vegetables they're not like avocados where if you buy them, it's going to go brown after a day. They can last a couple days, a week, maybe even 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And these are the ones that I want you to, when you go to the grocery store, get these so you can just have them waiting and ready for you. So we have apples and oranges. Those can be a snack. Those can be thrown on a salad. We have the cruciferous vegetables. We have cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, all good stuff. Carrots, carrots have a long lifespan in the fridge, especially with these like cabbage and carrots. If you put them in your vegetable drawer in your fridge that are designed to have the help with the air, those can last a long time. So those are really great vegetables to have on deck. Lemons and limes, those last forever. I mean, I've even seen a lime that I've had in the fridge for 2 weeks, and then it kind of looks leathery on the outside because it's been there for, I don't know if anyone else has seen this, but if you still cut into it, it's still really refreshing and citrusy and great. Potatoes, sweet potatoes and yams, squash, they like being in a dark, cold place, so they last a long time if you put them, in a cabinet drawer. Beets in the fridge, they last a while, and rutabaga, it's kind of like a turnip. Those are some of my favorite vegetables that I have on deck. And I kind of want to just ask, before we go into other thing, I'm going to talk about protein. Does anyone else have any other vegetables that you like to have just always available for you? And please just call out or say whatever it is.
Radishes.
Radishes, yeah, those are awesome. What do you put them on?
Oh, I just eat them.
Nice.
Plain, and I put them on salads and sometimes on the top of soup if I want. Because what I love about them is that they have crunch.
Right. Yeah, they're really good on, I love that you brought that up. They're similar to turnips in the sense, like rutabaga, they last a long time. So radishes are a good one. Does anyone else have another favorite of theirs?
I love zucchini, especially green zucchini, and I like to saute it in olive oil as a quick slice it up. You just have to rinse the skin, slice it up, olive oil, and then you can put whatever spices you want on it.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Zucchini, I like zucchini in like soups too. Just even on its own, it's delicious. That's awesome.
When you're talking about carrots, I'm sure you're not talking about the mini carrots that not really carrots, right?
Those have a shorter lifespan. You can see like the bag getting a little bit watery through time. I'm talking about like the carrots that have, the skin still on them. Those last, I find, a little bit longer, but just carrots in general they have a pretty good time frame. Last, anyone else want to name a vegetable?
Do you keep your apples and oranges, like your fruits, in the fridge too? They keep them so they last longer?
You can. You don't have to. I like it just to kind of, well, it's up to you, especially if you like it cold. Like sometimes I like them cold. If I see one kind of If I feel it and I feel it kind of being like, this is not going to last forever, then I put it in the fridge and then it can prolong the lifespan. But usually they don't have to by any means. But of course, the fridge will delay the degradation process.
I think celery is a good snack vegetable that's just seems to be very refreshing and satisfying at any time of the day.
Right. Yeah. Celery is awesome with hummus. And is that what do you usually eat it with? Plain or?
Yeah, I do. I put hummus frequently, or even peanut butter, nut butter. I just enjoy it. And I've grown to love the anise, which is like fennel. And when I
Yeah.
get that from the produce department, I end up consuming it within a few days because it really is nostalgic for me. I'm Italian and I grew up with that, but also because it's just so delicious. I really enjoy it. And I eat that plain. I don't have to put a thing on that.
Okay. Do you know if that lasts long in the fridge? I've actually never had that myself.
Yeah, it does. It lasts, I don't have it more than a week. It's already gone, but
Right.
I'm not sure past that time.
Right. Oh, it's awesome.
Danielle,
silly
one thing
question.
that I used to have a problem with celery because I felt like it went bad pretty quickly in my fridge, but then I started cutting off the bottom and putting it in a little vase of water, and then it lasted like forever.
That's awesome.
I have a silly
So-
question. What, I know that one of the other people mentioned not doing baby carrots. Is there an advantage of doing the whole carrots besides how long they stay versus baby carrots?
I mean, they're both carrots. It's really just having to look at if one's organic versus not, but the longer carrots versus the baby carrots is, I feel as though nutritionally they're similar. I don't know if Jill has an opinion on that, different from mine, but
Yeah, I think that they last longer if the skin is on them, for sure. Yeah, because if you think about it, the ones that are baby, they've gone through some processing, and I don't like to do processed stuff.
right. Yeah, thank you, Jill Craig.
I buy the organic, but I realize there's something said to making them these small baby carrots. I just find them easier to grab.
Right. Yeah. So it's a preference thing. Like this
I
is
have
about
a-
being prepared.
I have another snack that's a quickie for me, and yes, I mix it with hummus, but I buy the bag of the mini peppers because
Nice.
if I don't have the time, I know it's not that much time to cut up a big pepper, I just open the bag, rinse a few, dip them in hummus, and that's a quick snack for me. Or we
Right.
put them on the grill, and with whatever protein we're making, we'll put them on the grill, and they're just with olive oil, and they're just so convenient. And the top of it just comes right off. So with your knife and fork, you just pull off most of it, and the I don't even know what you call it, that holds the core, that holds the pits, just
Right.
comes right off.
Yeah, that's awesome. All
That's
of you are
yummy.
giving so many good ideas. We have the celery in the water. It's like a plant, so it makes sense that it would last longer putting it in water. Carrots, again, with the peppers, whatever is easiest to eat whole foods. If you have them, get them chopped versus baby. I like to have sometimes, like if one version's easier for you, to have the easier version and then not the harder version, but the one that maybe it's when you want to take a long time to cook, like enjoy it. You can have both in the fridge for you, ready, depending on the moment. So let's move on. So we have protein. So your favorite meat, fresh or frozen, of course, you can have it in the freezer. So it lasts, you're going to have to defrost it, but it's there for you. Fish, you can have it fresh, canned, or frozen. Fish is really forgiving in the sense that if it's frozen, it defrosts really well just on a stove. You don't really need to defrost it. It can start to be cooked right away. Shrimp, for convenience and being prepared, you can get frozen, pre-cooked, and deveined. That means you don't have to cook it. It's already ready to go for you. It takes less than 10 minutes to defrost. I'm a big fan of shrimp. Lentils, you can cook that within less than 30 minutes. There is some assembly required, but it's a great protein to have ready. Peas and edamame. I always have those in my freezer at all times. Those are a super easy way to throw in protein for like a stir fry for later. I mean, we're gonna go into specific ideas that you can do, but peas and edamame are really forgiving. Take them directly from the frozen bag and just throw them in and they'll start to already evaporate and defrost. Then we have chickpeas. You can eat those raw and you can eat them cooked, oven roasted too. Eggs, your preference and style. Most of us usually have eggs in the fridge, and on a dinner night, if you're like, I don't have any protein ready, why not have some scrambled eggs or you know, a hard-boiled egg for dinner? That no one says that you can't. Beans, you can have them canned, which is quicker, or you can have them soaked. You can get them raw and then soak them yourself, but that does require planning, usually for like at least 24 hours. But canned on the spot, I mean, cheese and yogurt, those tend to last a long time too. In terms of protein, is there anything that I didn't say on here that people have as like quick last things that they like to have?
Protein powder, is that cheating?
No, it's not cheating. I mean, that is protein to have. I didn't say this. I'm really going to address breakfast. I feel like a lot of people have protein powder during the breakfast time or maybe lunch, but people do that as a meal replacement for some days, so that is an option. Okay, so I have a lot to cover.
But Danielle, I'll just say really quickly, I like to have burgers in the freezer because they're so easy to cook up. Like I have salmon burgers, turkey burgers, and they're just super easy. So that
no, thanks for bringing that up. Jill actually, she got me hooked on these salmon burgers that I have all the time. They're super easy. They're from Vital Choice. It's just nice Alaskan wild caught salmon burgers. But burgers are really nice that you just put them on a pan, you sear them, you can have it. It's just like my protein for that meal. Whatever I cook it with, you can put like pesto on it, top it with arugula, whatever you like. So burgers are a great thing to have in the freezer. And then bases to have on deck. So I am like a lot of people in that I like to have my food kind of in like this nice little base of happiness on my food. And that could be whatever you want it to be. For me, it's beans and legumes are a big one. Of course, like I said, it relates to my last slide. You can have quinoa, amaranth, or buckwheat. Those are grain-free options. They're whole grains. With these, you can get them not cooked and you can have to soak them yourself, which takes some time, but you can also have, like I was saying before, an easier fast version and then a slower version if you want to take more time to cook it yourself. You can get it in boxes ready to go, just like put it on a stove top and it's cooked, or you can put it, nuke it in the microwave. There's different options, but just having it ready on hand, going to the grocery store and thinking, I don't need it this week, but I might need it next week. It's just that kind of mentality. Rice, of course, wild rice, jasmine rice. Again, you can get it boxed, ready to go, or just having it fresh. Grain-free pasta. I said grain-free because a lot of people have issues with gluten, but so just as an alternative for people, you can get the lentil pasta, the chickpea, the rice. My favorite is red lentil, personally. I have that as like one of my last minute meals. I get the boxes that have only one ingredient only. Usually it's just lentils and that's it. I don't like to have the ones that have all the other foo-foo stuff in there. And preferably no corn. We get corn in our meals plenty enough. And also cauliflower rice. That frozen in the freezer is an awesome way to just have a quick meal. Just heat it in the stovetop for a couple of minutes and then you have another nice boost of vegetables and a base. Does anyone else have any other things that they like to do as last minute bases? All right, cool. That means I covered all of them. So
I have a comment. The word, you don't have to have something like a bean or a legume or a grain as a base.
Right.
So it could be vegetables, it could be zucchini, like zoodles, or what's the other one that everybody does, like the cauliflower and stuff. So it doesn't have to be a grain or a legume. but obviously, you know, it gives it that sustenance.
Yeah, I forgot about zucchini noodles. That's an awesome another option. And yeah, you'll see I'm going to go into specific items that I do now, and you don't always have to have this. I'm not saying it's a requirement.
I
So
also find,
examples.
I was just gonna say, well, I do tempeh as a base sometimes too, but I also find that sometimes if I do ground buffalo or some kind of ground, then it like serves as a base and it just feels more substantive to me.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I forgot about tofu. And see, this is why I wanted it to be interactive, because you know everyone makes their own stuff and they get into a habit. Yeah, tempeh, tofu, that could be an option. And ground beef, or ground any kind of meat. So these are just my personal examples of what I do that just are dishes that are always in my brain ready to go for when I need something. I do one pan dishes, stir fries, tacos, bowls, soup, simple, just a veggie and protein option, and salad. I'm sure I've done other things, but these are just kind of the ones that just I've done multiple times just when I need last minute prepared things. And again, after I go through them or during them, please tell me other things that you've also done that help. So one pan dishes, why they work: you can combine virtually any vegetable I find with olive oil, salt, pepper, cook it long enough, and it's going to be delicious. You just stick it in the oven. You can mix them, or you can leave them separate on the pan. And you can also, it's really nice because you can add in your protein too. Either you can make it fish or chicken. Having like a meat thermometer helps with knowing when the chicken is done, or beef or whatever it may be. But you can also just, again, Google how long do I need to cook XYZ, and then just see how long it should take. Some examples of things I've done are chicken with Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes, all in one pan, all in one thing in the oven. Chicken with green beans, carrots, and broccoli. I've done salmon, kale, and cabbage. I've done a fish, a sole fish, and asparagus. I've done, for like a vegetarian option, this is a family favorite of my family's, is root mixed vegetables, just combining carrots, onions, and potatoes, you know, getting the nice ones, covering it with just olive oil, salt, pepper, and we add oregano, and that's it. It's super easy and it's super delicious. And then preheat the oven to 375 to 400 degrees, let it cook, and then you have your dinner. One pan dishes are pretty common. So does anyone have any other kind of things that they like as go-to one pan dishes?
I like to do like different kinds and different variations of chili. And that way too, like I freeze the rest of it. You can have it on a different day. There's like white chicken chili, there's regular turkey chili, like a vegetarian chili. There's all different sorts of things that you can do there, and it lasts for a very long time.
Oh yeah, chili is great. Yeah, chili can like fall under the soup thing, but that's awesome. Do you put yours in the freezer for future use too?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
We do curry. It's a big British thing, but like I guess Americans do stew, like stews. That's not really a soup though, right? So it's more of like a thick, a stew
Right.
or a curry. I love a curry.
Yeah, curries are awesome. That's what I like to do for that is it's kind of like a stir fry, but instead I add in like a Thai red paste with some coconut milk, and then you have this great curry. So coconut milk was always on deck for me. You know, I tried making this pretty simple. It's kind of like a next step up, but thank you for bringing that up, Elizabeth. That's an awesome idea.
What kind of coconut milk do you use out of curiosity? Because I'm always trying to figure it out.
I use whole fat coconut milk.
In a container, or?
I personally use a can. A container's fine. I usually just, around me, what's an option is canned. But I like the creaminess with the whole fat. Okay, so stir fries, of course, that's the huge one. Again, you can combine any vegetable you want in one pan, fresh or frozen. Just add in some soy sauce or tamari, which is gluten-free version, salt, pepper, ground ginger, cook in some fresher frozen protein. You don't have to use a base, or you can use multiple bases. There's of course like the fresh vegetables, the frozen vegetables. I like to have spinach in here. Spinach is one of the ones in the fridge that will if you don't use it. So as a backup plan, I like to have them frozen and just throw it into a stir fry. Add in proteins, fast ones are peas, edamame, and shrimp, cut, mixed together. Oh, and a quick thing that I wanted to give is just like a tip, is that when you're really in a rush and you don't want to wait for the vegetables to cook through with just searing, I kind of like to do like a combination of boiling and stir fry. So I just put like a tablespoon or 1 tablespoon of water in it while it's all, you know, pretty hot and cooking, cover it with a lid, and then I'll begin to steam it. And that gets it cooking a lot faster. So when you're really in a rush, that's kind of like my hint that I do. And yeah, chop it up and put it in the skillet. With stir fries especially, you can get sauces. Sauces are like a whole other discussion, but with sauces, I try to get ones that are of course low in sugar, the ones that are kind of minimal ingredients, but that can enhance your flavor. Does anyone have any comments or additions to stir fries?
When you say peas, are you thinking more chickpeas?
I'm thinking the green peas, but you can by all means add in chickpeas. I love chickpeas to add into every single dish. I'm thinking peas because peas are a good source of protein, but so, you know, so are beans just in general, chickpeas. But peas, I kind of think more like Asian inspired, so it matches more of what I was trying to get for. And that can be just like the actual peas, or it could be sugar snap peas, you know, that could all be in the freezer.
I think.
I'm thinking like Danielle, like if you had cauliflower rice in the freezer and you had eggs, you have
Right.
a meal right there. Like
Boom.
if you're in a pinch, you know, you have the fiber, you have the fat, protein, super easy.
Super easy. Another thing is if you don't even have time to cut your vegetables, there are pre-cut veggie medleys in the freezer section at your grocery store. I get those sometimes when I know, again, in the future, I'm going to be in a rush. And then I just get those as a last minute thing. And sometimes they have vegetables that you wouldn't normally have bought anyways. So that's always an option, to just always be prepared for options. And the egg, having a fried egg on top of a stir fry, boom, delicious. Okay, so tacos. So this one you might not have expected, but I've done this just a couple of times, and it's a really easy way to, one, use up those random ingredients in your fridge that you might have just like a little bit of. Also, it's an easy way to increase your veggie fiber. You want to be mindful, of course, like the extra ingredients that you can add on with tacos, but it's a good way and it's fun for a group or multiple people to make it their own. So with tortillas, you know, you don't need just like the flour or the corn ones. They have a whole multitude of things now. They have like whole wheat, grain-free options, protein-packed ones. I'm not saying doing this every single week, but it's a fun option to have. With fiber, fat, and protein, avocado has great fiber. So having that, if you have it, you don't always need avocado. Black beans from a can, meat, again, ready, shrimp, fish, refried beans, fried eggs. This is kind of the like, okay, let's just throw everything we have together in one meal. Of course, you know, tacos, you can add on whatever you like to it, nutritious topping options. For me personally, I like to cook just 2 and only 2 things when it comes to my tacos, and that's peppers and onions. I always have onions with me, and I usually have bell peppers in the fridge. So I just like to do salt, pepper, chili powder, and I also like to add in cumin and cayenne, but you don't even need to add those. And that makes really good, fun tacos that give you a nutrient boost. Again, you can also get quick replacements, like if you get the store-bought salsa or guacamole or pico de gallo, it's a great option.
I
Or
also-
cilantro.
Danielle, I do my tacos because I do gluten-free in lettuce wraps.
Right, yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I love lettuce wraps. I feel like when I have lettuce wraps, it makes me crave mushrooms. So I have kind of like mushroom tacos. I feel like that like comes from, what's that restaurant that always had them? Oh yeah, P.F. Chang's. They had like mushroom lettuce wraps, and I fell in love with them at that restaurant. And so now I make them myself.
And also I find that like in a pinch, because as you mentioned, like I find avocados are just so hard to manage. Like they're
they're solid as a rock, and then boom, they all turn soft like at the same time until you can get them in the fridge quick enough, that I will resort to those like they're expensive, but those like miniature, like fresh, like little packages that are just avocado, especially if
Right.
I'm just cooking lunch for me, then I'm not like wasting a whole avocado or half an avocado. So I
Right.
do those in a pinch too, like just buy the tiny little packages.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's about making what works for you, especially if you cook for just your own self. Avocados are tricky because they go fast. They go bad fast. So I like to get the little mini avocados too. Like she was saying, those are offered at my grocery store nearby, so those help. Tacos, minimal cooking, just cutting, and they're flexible. So then we have bowls. It's basically the same thing as a taco, but with no taco. It's a really good flexible thing. You only need a couple of things to make it good. You don't even, again, the base could be more vegetables if you want it. A base, protein, vegetable, flavoring is up to you. You can make it kind of like a burrito bowl with rice, black beans, peppers, onions, lime. Throw on, again, you can add on an egg or shrimp or peas or edamame to anything. You can have it like a kind of like a Buddha bowl. I always think like it's more like California. You can just have like cauliflower rice, but like arugula, avocado, shrimp, roasted chickpeas. The options are limitless. It's just finding what works for you. To get like flavors and sauces, again, you can go to the store and see what they have, or you could just do a simple dressing that you've made yourself. Yeah, does anyone have any comments about bowls? Okay. Then we have soup. So
Oh,
yeah,
Danielle, I had an idea, sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
You're like, sparking all these creative ideas in my head, but I was thinking also, I feel like I've had in places a salad under like a bunch of spinach and greens, and then on top of that, something cooked, which was like a little bit different, or a bunch of vegetables cooked that like almost like you put a stir fry underneath, and then on top you can put an egg or some kind of meat or fish.
Right.
So yeah, no, this is good
One
stuff.
thing that I with the salmon burgers, I like one of my favorite meals is to make like basically a salad, but it's not like a full salad, but it's missing something, so I just put a salmon burger right on top, and then I have a full meal, and I love it. So that could be considered a bowl. The definition is kind of loose. So
Warm quinoa in a bowl is very, very tasty too.
yeah, quinoa. Yeah, that's kind of like the more like Buddha bowl that you get at a restaurant, but it's really good.
Mhm.
You can also do like potato as a base. I had a friend who was actually from China, and she made like actual traditional Chinese food for us one time, and she like steamed potatoes in wedges and cut them up, and she served the stir fry like on top of that, and that was actually like traditional. So this is a very new concept to me, but it was very tasty, and it's a good alternative.
Yeah, that's I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
I would just to like boost, especially with the fiber, leaving this skin on with potatoes is one thing. If you're gonna do that, definitely leaving the skin on is good. So soup is amazing. Like Chardonnay was saying earlier, she likes to have it just in the freezer ready for her to go. So I'm gonna say like soup is in like different categories. The good option is having pre-prepared soups. I like Amy's soups. They generally have a good amount of ingredients in there. You can get lower sodium ones if that's something that you have to pay attention to. But better option would be to cook your own soup in just like 30 minutes using those ingredients that you have in your fridge. Again, soup is really forgiving in the sense that the flavors nicely combine together. So you can kind of make like a whole hodgepodge situation for you. Just cook the veggies like as if you were a stir fry, and then just add in your water, your broth, your beans, if you want tomato base, whatever you have, some spices, and then simmer and cook for 10 to 30 minutes, and then you have a soup. If you're not comfortable with that, I would highly just look up recipes. There's a lot of easy recipe soup ideas that you can make in under 30 minutes. Next, best is to, like what Chardonnay was saying, make a huge batch of your favorite soup that could take hours and hours to make a lot of it, and then put half of it in the freezer. that is what I like to do in my freezer. It's like kind of a nice treat for myself of something that I did like maybe 2 weeks ago. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I can have this delicious soup again, but I don't need to remake it. And then if you see my bit at the very top is add in chickpeas. I add in chickpeas, just a can of it, to almost every soup that I make, because that's just an easy way to boost fiber. And I think they just work nicely, their texture in a soup. Does anyone else have soup? I know we talked about chili. Definitely that's a good option.
I would say like a chicken noodle soup. So normally when I have like baked chicken or something like that, I will actually put the chicken bones in a pot of water and start cooking it and just add some egg noodles to it and some vegetables. That's like another like super, because I like to make a couple meals at a time. So throw some potatoes in there. Also use that as a same base in what I'm cooking that same night too. So you can make like 2 dishes at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, making it work just for future meals too. I didn't even think about that.
I was just wondering about bone broth. There are a lot of shows about bone broth and books on it. It's supposed to be some sort of magical elixir. Do you think that it really is? You know, a lot of boiling of bones. In fact, in my state, former Governor Dukakis goes around and collects a lot of carcasses and makes bone broth like every week. And he says he's, you know, got really good joints and flexibility because of bone broth. But I was wondering what your take is on it.
So bone broth is really good for your gut. I mean, there's research behind that. If you just think about it purely in that our bones, just every animal's bones, we hold so many of our nutrients in our bones. That's where 99% of our calcium is. That's where we store our phosphorus, our magnesium. A lot of minerals, especially, are stored in our bones. And the same is for animals. So when you are simmering those animal bones for a long time, you're releasing those nice nutrients. And those nutrients end up being also good for your gut health too. So bone broth is, I mean, I'm not sure what you've been reading, but I know it is really good. And I need to start making it more. You can get the store-bought ones, but those, you know, we don't really know what goes behind the scenes of the store-bought bone broth. So I know, like, Jill and I would definitely recommend making your own if you are going to. Jill, actually, I believe you have your own recipe for bone broths that you make. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I have a blog post from back in the day that has recipe. I can find it and put it in the chat. But, you know, it's simple. If you have some bones, you know, the other day I had some chicken and some beef bones, and I just cooked, you know, I just cooked those and then added some onions and garlic at the end. So, but bone broth is does have a lot of benefits for the gut, and also I mean, because you're also not only you're getting those minerals and amino acids, you're getting collagen,
right,
which is good for the gut and supposedly good for your skin, hair, you know, connective tissue, and so I would say it's worth it to try it out and see if it makes a difference for you. The only little thing is that, you know, just try to get organic bones if you can, or grass-fed beef bones, something like that. Oh, and about the soup, my daughter wanted to make kimchi, and she made me buy one of those big heads of Chinese cabbage, Napa cabbage. And then she left for college on Sunday, so it was just sitting on the counter. So yesterday, or Monday, I asked my husband to just cut up an onion, cut up that cabbage and saute it. And then I just added bone broth and salt and pepper to it. And boom, like you say, boom, we had a soup. And I just had it before this call. And it's just, you know, just sitting in the fridge.
Nice.
So I mean, it could be the simplest thing, just onions and cabbage. And you have an entire vegetable dish now.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, you know, glamorous, but simple things can be delicious. And another thing is with bone broth, Jill Craig, she's on the call, I think, she taught me a really good tip of that with her bone broth. It only lasts so many days in the fridge. So if you want to put it in the freezer or storage, she found that it was a lot easier for her to break it up into kind of a cupcake tins. So it's a single serve portion to defrost in the fridge instead of having a big carton of bone broth that you might not need all of it at once in the future. So she told me that she does that, and it's really nice.
Yeah, it's tricky to balance that sheet in the freezer. And so you have to do it over a few days, probably depending on how much you make. But then you take it out and let it sit out just for a little bit so that they get released from the tin. And then I throw them in a baggie. And then the baggie sits in the freezer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I've made the bone broth in a crock pot because my recipe called for more than 24 or 48 hours of getting organic bones and very little water, or I can't even recall the amount of water, I guess a good amount so it doesn't evaporate, but with onions and a bay leaf, and I just let it cook for a couple of days, and then I put it into portion containers and freeze it. And that was recommended by a doctor, and in order to fortify yourself with nutrients and calcium and all those wonderful things. As you said, from what is extracted from the bones, the marrow and all of that is just so healthy. So I did that for a while. I was on a kick with that, and I haven't done it in a long while, but I should get back to it again.
Yeah, it's one of those things you forget about, and then you remember, and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just curious if, Elise, was it your dog whispering in your ear to inquire about bringing bones into the house?
Is that a message?
So here's the thing. So I do have two dogs. One of them is right here. They both love bone broth, and then I put it over their kibbles. And so it becomes when they don't have, they're both senior citizen dogs. So whenever they have like a really poor appetite, a little bone broth makes the food really exciting for them. So
I'll have to try that too.
Yeah. Good question. But thank you for all this information on bone broth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have another thing to add about soup.
Sure.
So one thing that I like to do, because I have teen kids in the house and stuff, is I'll throw whatever vegetables I can find. Like you were saying, kind of clean out the fridge and throw everything in there. It doesn't even matter what it is. Throw in the bone broth, and then I just do the handheld blender. And now it's a mysterious soup that nobody really knows what's in there, but it still tastes good. And again, if you have cans of coconut milk in the cabinet, throw that in, and it's just fabulous. I mean, you really don't have to do much. The other thing is, if you don't want all the fat from the coconut milk, you can, if you have cauliflower, it makes the soup nice and thick too.
Yeah. Yeah, I like pureed soup now. So that's good. All right, let's just go through. So this is just, again, it relates to the whole thing. Things just have to be simple. You could just have an easy protein and a veggie. You can make it into a bowl. You can just have it on a plate, whatever that works for you. Make sure you love both of them, and you can cook them together, or you can cook them individually. My screen is frozen. There we go. So we have veggies, you can stir fry them. You can even steam them, so it's super fast. You can even eat them raw, whatever. It depends on the vegetable, of course, but whatever you prefer. Protein, you can have it from a can, frozen or fresh. This is where I gave the shout out to the salmon burgers, chicken burgers. Looking at the ingredients is important, but those are a great way to just have last minute protein too. Sauces, you can have like hot sauce if you like that, like soy sauce, that adds like a umami flavor to the dishes a lot of the times. Olive oil, marinara sauce, depends on what you're making, but just to kind of make it all conducive dish. Salads, that's pretty clear, but the thing is, salads only work if you think the ingredients are delicious. That's the key, and that's why you're going to eat them. There's of course the classic salad of the green base with various toppings and dressings. Like, I don't really need to go further into that. You know it. Coleslaw you can make, cabbage, you can go mayonnaise, Dijon mustard, spices. That fits with the whole route of having cabbage on deck because cabbage lasts a long time in the fridge. You can have that just as a nice little snack or a whole meal. You can have just like a chopped veggie salad, like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, cucumber, red bell pepper, whatever you like. The simplest dressing is, if you don't have one or if you don't want to buy the store-bought ones, is just purely olive oil, salt, pepper, and you can add in balsamic or some lemon juice. You can even add in some apple cider vinegar for another level of kind of vinegary taste, but it doesn't have to be fancy, remember. And then also I wanted to say that Jill has a great blog called How to Make Salad and Vegetables and Truly Enjoy Them. I can include that link when I send this recording, but salads are really great if you love the ingredients that are in them. Does that, again, like always, does anyone else have any other salads that you like to make?
I just make simple salads, but I love the power blend lettuce. So I find, like, especially if they have Swiss chard in them or chard, whatever it says, it's just, oh my, it's so dense, the lettuce, and it's so tasty. It's just one of my favorites.
What is it called again?
A lot of times it's like a power blend lettuce. It's the same type of greens that someone making a juice might use. If you buy them in a box. But depending on what store I go to or who's making them, Wegmans, or I went to our health food store the other day in Nanuet, and they just have different, like a power blend, and they usually a combination of like a chard, a spinach, arugula, and it's just very convenient because it's all in that box. It's not like you're buying heads of each of them and cleaning them. You just grab it. And when I add celery, I try to add the celery leaves, and they just give it a really nice taste. But like you said, I love it, and it's my thing in my house. We just love our salads.
Yeah, on the topic of celery leaves, that goes back to soups. Me and my family, we always add in the celery leaves to our soups. It adds really nice flavor to them. So I would recommend not discarding them, but instead waiting for a soup to add them in. Or on a salad. Again, you can eat them just on a salad too.
I find
I like adding shredded Brussels sprouts and broccoli sprouts as well to my salad. It gives it like a really good punch to it. And then pepitas, which are also like pumpkin seeds and cranberries and stuff.
Yeah, seeds. Those are a great way to add a nice crunch to a salad. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I was just going to add pomegranates was going to be the thing I was going to say too, but I know, especially for my kids, like on your chopped salad point, the more I chop it and the more I add in like a few things that I know will appeal to their palate, like pomegranates or apples or something that like has a little bit of sweet to it, the more likely I am that they like mindlessly like start eating it and not realize they're getting a bite of kale with a piece of apple. That works really well to like I sneak everything in, and just like I do the same thing with the tomato sauce as well, like when I make that from scratch, right? But just chop it as tiny as you can, and it's amazing what you can sneak into a meal. I do it with myself as well. Like I have to sneak in things I don't particularly appeal to.
Yeah, that's like the pureed soup, make it a mystery so they can't separate it. Yeah, I mean, even like pomegranates are another thing that lasts forever, usually. Like you can have that and they'll just be waiting to use. Like apples and oranges, adding that on, I find if I cut them up and I have a piece of apple in every bite when I'm biting into a salad, it makes me super happy. Finding those foods that you really like that you can put in every bite of salad, it makes a big difference. Make salads what you love.
Like the biggest issues that I have with our beets, I cannot stand them. I know they're so good for you, but they taste like dirt. So the only way I can ever get them down is to chop them up and put them into a salad underneath everything.
Okay. Good for you for trying it out and adding them into your diet. And I like beets. I like to have them actually in my hummus when I make hummus. So I don't know if you'd want to try that. Lemon beet hummus is really, really nice.
You're talking about raw beets, not pickled beets, right?
I'm talking about raw. I don't know. Are you talking about raw or pickled Chardonnay?
all. Just not a fan. Like my grandparents had a farm and everything, and they used to give us fresh beets and other fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff. But that and squash. I'm like, no, that's not
Right.
going to happen.
Have you tried golden beets? Do they offend you as
I've
much?
tried different ones. I promise you, I've tried them all sorts of ways. And my father was a chef too. So the issue with him being a chef is that he always snuck a whole bunch of different foods into our stuff. But that one I can always like pick out. I'm like, you made a sauce out of beets and this is not good.
Don't beets increase sugar? Am I wrong in saying that?
So all fruit has sugar in it. It has fructose sugar. So beets do, it will increase your sugar intake just by default being a fruit. Even vegetables have a little bit of sugar in it. But I don't, it's not going to be as much as having like a Twix bar. But
yeah, my future prior nutritionist, if you could think about that, kind of always told me not to have, because I had a pre-diabetic situation, and she kept saying no beets, no beets, no beets. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there are fruits that are higher carb than lower carb. Like having mangoes or bananas are going to raise your sugar levels more, of course. I'm not sure exactly where beets would fall on that spectrum, but that is something I guess, to be mindful of for your
Beets are a vegetable.
or oh my God, I always thought they were a fruit. Well, that makes sense. They don't have seeds.
Yeah, they're a vegetable, but they do have more sugars than, say, celery, for sure. But they also have the fiber in there. So I think, the thing about sugars in vegetables, I feel like unless you're doing really low carb, like you're trying to do, 50 grams of carbs or 30 grams of carbs a day, like the benefits are there.
Right.
And I don't think people should just arbitrarily restrict them just because it's like, oh, beets have too much sugar.
Right.
Unless you're doing it for a specific reason, which some people are, if they have insulin resistance or something like that.
Right. I always like to think of like beets have that like nice purple color of like purple cabbage too. Like that's like polyphenols, that's plant compounds that are unique to that plant that you can only get there. So that's why we want the colors and the salads too. So that's another thing to think about. So
I like to grate a raw beet into a salad, and you don't get that much of it, but it adds a wonderful flavor, and it looks very pretty. And if you do it on top just before you serve it, it really has a little touch to it.
I'm going to start doing that. Thank you, Camille. So we have less than 10 minutes now, so I'm on the final end, but let's keep going. So snacks, that's a big one. So I'm just gonna hit them all. So we have oven roasted chickpeas. Putting them 400 degrees for like 15 minutes in the oven is a great snack. They're nice and crispy. You can add some nice salt, garlic powder to them. It's a great snack. Hard-boiled eggs, nuts, avoiding the sugar-coated ones. There's a lot of nuts out there. Raw hummus with veggies and nut butters. You can have a combination of whatever you prefer. Again, you can have those nice fruits these tend to be lower carb. Actually, we were just talking about that. Apples, melons, kiwi, and oranges. They last quite a bit too. Berries are another great one to have on deck as a snack. Homemade granola, that can be just nuts and seeds in a medley of different things. Fiber-filled baked goods like carrot oat bran muffins. You can make paleo muffins. I'm doing muffins just because they're easy to hold. They already have a self-contained thing, but really any fiber-filled baked good I would recommend. Cured meats like salami, prosciutto, jerky. You can get good quality ones from grass-fed animals, no antibiotics. And then lastly, on the road, if you have to stop at like a gas station and they don't have like any other options for I probably recommend the Kind or RX bars. All the bars, you have to look at the ingredients, of course, that goes without saying, but those ones tend to be better. And then just for the sake of time, we can go back to snacks, but I just want to go through these next 2 slides. So tools that help with being prepared for fast meals, of course, are going to be a pressure cooker. Those things can cook a meal in 10 minutes. But one that I really want to point out that actually a nutritionist told me about, we were talking about this workshop, and she told me that she uses this called Hot Logic. So I really want to emphasize this for people who travel or on the road, or if you go into the office. Hot Logic, it's a way to reheat food without using like a microwave. It's portable. It doesn't have an on-off button, and no temperature control. It's just simply plug it into an outlet and it starts heating up. They pride themselves in never burning foods because it's just a slow thing. And it takes less than 1 hour to heat refrigerated food and 2 hours for frozen foods. So all you do is have to simply just put in your Pyrex self-contained Tupperware into this like lunchbox looking thing, and it will heat up that homemade meal for you. And in fact, it can heat up leftovers or even cook raw foods too. I wanted to make sure of that. I was looking at their website. So this is something that if you travel a lot, or if you go into the office and you are sick of having cold meals, this is something that you should look into, so that way you can have home cooked meals wherever you go. So the website is hotlogic.com. So she swears by it. And then lastly, on the road actually I have 2 more slides. On the road for what restaurants or stores to look for. One thing that when I'm traveling, I just simply Google healthy restaurants near me. You know, what that definition is going to vary whether you're in the middle of Alabama versus New York City, but just look at their menu, see what they have before you're driving around. Go into a health food stores if you find one, or a grocery store. You can buy their prepared foods and salads, you know, if they have like that deli section. And if you have no other options, and if you don't have your own food, or if there's nothing else there, some of the chains that have some better options are Chipotle, Panera, Core Life Eatery, it's my favorite actually, Life Kitchen, or Sweet Green. You know, those are kind of like a salad trend. You can also just get other nutritious meals. So those are some of my favorite chains, and they're pretty much everywhere in America, I would believe. And then, because we aren't always in our kitchens. And then this slide has a lot of information, so I'm just going to click through. But then we're on our final stretch. So this is just easy tricks to make your food delicious, even in a flash. Some of my favorites are using that alliums, using garlic and onion, shallots and scallions. That's just an easy way to make any meal delicious. I also am a big proponent of having salt blended in with herbs. You can get them pre-blended at a store. Like if you go to a nice like artisanal store, especially, they're going to have like those nice medleys, and they'll even tell you what they're good for. But you could do it yourself. You know, you can combine some salt with garlic powder, and then you have this garlicky nice salt. It's a really easy way to just throw one thing on and you have a whole array of flavor. Another one is blending oils with herbs or spices with alliums. That can be even just like for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If you have some time to just let some garlic sit in olive oil, then your olive oil is going to be infused with garlic, and that just adds that nice flavor. So there's a lot on here. You know, adding sauces like pesto to meals, if you have that just in the fridge, cooking with the seasons. Also, that means that the food is probably fresher, which means that'll probably taste better. Sometimes you can even save money because less processing had to happen for it to get to your grocery store. You know, and the balance of the herbs if you're onto that. But these are trying to be easy ones. You don't have to do all of these, but just choose some of your favorites. And then what did you pick from this menu? You can say that out to yourself, write it down on paper, and start it this week. I would implore you to do that. And then lastly, before some people have to go, but then we can continue talking if you have time, I just wanted to mention that next month, our Lunch and Learn will be on February 10th at noon, and it is called Healthy Relationships, Healthy Life. And it is with a woman, she is a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist, Risa Ganel. I'm not sure if Ganel, but she is going to be hosting an awesome talk next month. And then also, if you want to book a free strategy call with Jill Cruz, you can go to that link there. We can provide that in the email, and you can talk with her about your health journey. So it is almost exactly 5 p.m. So if anyone wants to talk or say their ideas at the end, feel free. Thank you all for attending. I hope you picked up something.
Thank you. It was delightful and informative.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Dan-
Yes.
Hi, Danielle, it was wonderful. I just wonder quickly if you can, I can eat really healthy during the day and then things fall apart at night in front of Netflix. Do you have any thoughts other than when I ruin things and pull out a bowl of ice cream?
I would say look to what happens earlier in the day. Is your lunch, is it full of protein, fat, and fiber? That's kind of the easiest thing of looking at, did you properly nourish your body earlier in the day? And is your body asking for more later that evening? You know, it could be psychological, it could be habitual, but looking at if your body is properly well nourished earlier in the day is pretty common. And it's one of the easier things to look at.
So with that in mind, is there anything on the sweet side that is healthful as opposed to what I'm doing?
So there is, and it's going to depend on what you like. I would say definitely if you're really craving something sweet that, if you really need something sweet late at night, I would say, of course, like you could go for some dates. That doesn't really give the nice, it depends. I mean, dates are really good if you even just have like 3 or I don't know if you would even need 4, but 3 of them can really fill you up and it gives you that nice sweetness. You know, like even having like I like honey as my sweetness, so I sometimes like to just put that in my tea as a late night thing too, because that gives me if I want something like that.
Danielle, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because I actually have another call at 5.
Oh, okay.
On this Zoom, so I have to hop off. But Elise, and we were just talking in the chat, we should do a whole thing about nighttime eating.
Oh my God, I haven't even seen the chat. There's 61 messages.
All right.
No, it's okay. I've been managing the chat. But
Okay,
if I can find, I'm pretty sure I've even done little blog posts about it as well, Elise. So if I find something, I'll send it. We'll
Thank
send
you
it out.
so
to
much. It was
everybody.
great. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for joining and
Thank you.
attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye.